What's up? What's going on? Yeah, it's been a while. It's been a while. No, it hasn't been that long. I did cover, it seems like it's been a long time. I did cover Holyfield versus Belfort, and boy, I still feel dirty from that. So I'm going to go ahead and get right into things. If you haven't heard, November the 20th, and I don't know what they're calling it these days. It has a new name, but in the Mandalay Bay Arena in Las Vegas, not in the regular MGM Grand, not in the T-Mobile Arena, November the 20th, 2021. WBO 147-pound champion Terrence Crawford is going to be taking on Sean Porter. It's official. It's done. Tuesday, the 14th, was supposed to be a purse bid. Purse bid means anyone who has enough for the deposit, promotional license, can bid on the fight. I was hoping and boxing praying that it wouldn't go to purse bid because I didn't want the likes of a Triller to be involved. But that's a whole different video. But the good news is the fight is done. It's being reported that Terrence Crawford is going to make 6 million. Being reported he's going to make 6 million. I think it's going to be pretty much more than that, but that's what they're reporting. Sean Porter is being reported to make $4 million. It's supposed to be on pay-per-view. The average pay-per-view, I'm talking about nothing that's not a novelty fight, headlined by a novelty fight. The average pay-per-view is $74.99, $79.99. For example, Fury versus Wilder 3, which is supposed to take place October the 9th in less than 3 weeks. That's going to be for $79.99. On that Monday for $49.99, yes, that Monday competing with Monday Night Football, on October the 4th, you're going to have Teofimo Lopez taking on George Kambosos for $50. You can expect for when Canelo versus Caleb Plant to be announced, whether it's going to be on free TV, Fox pay-per-view, or is it going to be on Showtime, you can pretty much guarantee that that's going to be about $74 to $79.99. Bob Berman said that, on the record, who did he say this to? Was it to ESPN? I should have pulled that article up. Well, anyway, I believe it was Boxing Scene. Well, anyway, Bob Arum is on the record saying that he doesn't expect this pay-per-view to do well. So you have to wonder where the money came from. I don't care. I never was really into, especially the last few years or so, talking about fighters' money. I don't really like getting into that. You see what I'm saying? But I'm just glad the fight's happening. How much is the pay-per-view going to be? Bob Arum says he wants to make it, cheaper than the other pay-per-views that's been going on. My bet is it'll probably be something like $69.99. I don't think it's going to be a $50 pay-per-view. I would be shocked. I don't think so because that's Jake Paul pay-per-view prices, Lopez versus Kambosos. And here's the thing. In this landscape, I'm not confident on how well that this fight is going to be a super mega hit. Right? Now, I'm happy that it's happening. I'm really excited that it's happening because there's so many different things to talk about regarding what it took for this fight to happen. For example, it's just a straight ESPN pay-per-view fight. Sean Porter is a PBC fighter. We're going to talk about Sean Porter later on in the video. So, with that said, I'm going to go ahead and say that I'm predicting the fight's going to do about 200,000 pay-per-view buys or so. Now, I have to also point out that when these pay-per-view numbers come out, when you hear, normally, here's who I trust pay-per-view numbers from. Kevin Iole from Yahoo, Jake Donovan, Copinger, not so much. Because from his time with the LA Times, from his time with The Athletic, from his time now with ESPN, he get fed stuff because of the platform that he's on, and they know he's going to go ahead and publish it. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, I've openly talked about it multiple times. We got some announcements to make too. Is that, and it's taboo to talk about. We're not supposed to talk about it, especially media. Is that these fights are easy as fuck to stream, bro. They're easy to stream. I'm talking about you're now watching. Let me tell you some real shit. I watched the Ioka versus Rodriguez fight a couple of weeks ago on an illegal stream. I admit it. I had no other way to watch it here in the States. There was no, I have all of the apps. I swear to God, I have all of the apps. I buy all of the pay-per-views. I just don't have Voodoo, that app. I don't have that one. But yo, lock me up. If I can't pay for a fight legally, and I'm a journalist, you expect me not to watch the fight? I'm gonna watch the fight. So anyway, this stream was super clean, crisp. It was fucking 60 frames per second. I saw like the motion blur. Like, bro, these streams are getting they too hardcore. But however, Terrence Crawford has a large following in Omaha. Omaha's going to be lit. So you can expect at least 100,000 views to come from there, right? I mean, 100,000 pay-per-view buys, right? Us hardcore fans, this is a fight where there's no reason why you hardcore fans should not be buying this fight. Like, this is a fight we've been wanting. And even myself, up until, let me tell you when I knew it was happening, or when I had confidence that it was going to happen. The first thing was Sean Porter not withdrawing from the purse bid, or withdrawing from the WBO rankings. Then the post bid getting postponed, meaning that they were working on something. If a purse bid gets postponed, that means that they're doing some type of talking. Then on the Triller broadcast this last week, Holyfield versus Belfort, Ray Flores, who was cringe as fuck, by the way, kept talking about it like it was done, trying to get 50 Cent to walk Sean Porter out, and Sean Porter wasn't disputing it. So I'm like, wait a minute, this shit is done. And then voila, we have the fight done. So once again, the details, November the 20th, in the Mandalay Bay Arena. They're calling it something else now. I don't know what it's being called. Pay-per-view price is yet to be determined. I don't believe it's going to be $50. I don't believe it's going to be $80. Bob Arum is going on the record to say that it's going to be, they're going to try to make the price, reasonable. Reasonable. We don't know what that means. Sean Porter set to make $4 million, reported. And Terrence Crawford set to make $6 million. Also, Bob Arum spilled the beans to a Irish news publication that Terrence Crawford is an MTK global fighter, or not officially, but being advised by the head of MTK. And that's a whole history right there. Terrence Crawford several months ago took this trip to Dubai, where MTK is, stationed. MTK has a contract. Well, put it this way, MTK fighters, a good portion of them are now going to be fighting on Sky Sports. Top Rank has a deal with Sky Sports. Remember, all UK fights from Eddie Hearn, unless it's Anthony Joshua pay-per-view, is going to be on the Zone. So Top Rank now has access to Sky Sports. They get to put their fights on the network. And MTK and Bob Arum and Top Rank are tight. Tyson Fury is an MTK global fighter. Jojo Diaz is an MTK global fighter. Jamel Herring is an MTK global fighter. They're slowly starting to try to make their way into the States. And even though, Bob Arum spilled the beans, nothing has been officially announced and or confirmed yet that Terrence Crawford is in fact the MTK global fighter. So what I'm trying to say is, I believe they have a big part in putting money into this fight to make sure it gets done. Because Bob Arum has openly said, and even offered Sean Porter $2 million or so, that he didn't want to pay for this fight because he didn't expect for it to do well. And he's even saying the same thing now that the fight is done. So I believe that the fight should warrant all of your pay-per-view buys. I'll tell you right now, I'll shill if I have to. But I really believe that this fight, especially since we don't get fights like this where we actually get to see two top-tier fighters, and we're going to talk about Sean Porter's resume in a minute. We've been really looking for Terrence Crawford to fight some type of name. And me personally, I didn't count Kell Brook. I'm sorry, I didn't rate Kell Brook very highly. Too long in the tooth. Amir Khan, well, we knew it was going to happen. I didn't think he was going to quit. I thought he was going to get knocked out. But You know, Kavaliauskas was a mandatory. I liked the Jose Benavidez fight, but he only had one leg. So let's go look at the resumes while we're here. And, you know, I have concerns. Now, by the way, I'm going to go ahead and say that I am picking Terrence Crawford, but not very confidently because we haven't seen him fight somebody like Sean Porter. And also, he likes to test his chin. But then again, on a lot of people's cards, Sean Porter lost to Yordenis Ugas, and Yordenis Ugas wasn't the same Yordenis Ugas that fought Manny Pacquiao. But let's go look at the resume of Sean Porter: 31-3-1 with 17 KOs. Now, here's what I want to point out: Sean Porter has pretty much lost all of his big fights. Now, let's go all the way back. Now, by the way, amazing resume, win or loss, amazing, going all the way back to his Showbox days. Ray Robinson. Hector Munoz, he's a big name sparring partner. Julio Diaz. Remember, Julio Diaz was knocking Amir Khan all around the ring. Phil LaGreca was undefeated at the time, fought Julio Diaz again. Devin Alexander. Paulie Malignaggi. Oh my God, he put a boot in Paulie Malignaggi's ass. I thought Paulie was dead. I ain't gonna lie. Kell Brook came over here, you know, did some damage. Eric Bonet, PBC on Spike. Adrian Broner, okay, that was a money fight. Many expected for him to win, meaning Sean Porter. Keith Thurman was a war. Andre Berto, I was at that fight. That was a little, it's like, you know, this was weird. This was a weird fight. Adrian Granados, who was a very, very credible. The Adrian Granados that fought Sean Porter is not the Adrian Granados that fought Conor Benn. I don't know what that Adrian Granados was. Danny Garcia, Yordenis Ugas, Earl Spence, Formella, ill. That was just a pandemic, you know, stay busy fight. And now Terrence Crawford. But when you look at his biggest fights, Errol Spence, he clearly lost that in my opinion. Yordenis Ugas, well, people feel he lost that fight. Me personally, I don't think Yordenis Ugas did enough to beat the champ. Danny Garcia, wasn't Sean Porter the favorite to beat Danny Garcia? So, you know, even though it's a big name, but from my understanding, Sean Porter was the favorite. Adrian Granados, okay. Andre Berto, okay. He mauled him. Keith Thurman, his big fight he lost. Adrian, but see, it depends on how you look at it. I'm talking his. See, even though he beat guys like Adrian Broner, Andre Berto, and Danny Garcia, those were fights where he was pretty much the favorite, wasn't he? Paulie Malignaggi, he was the favorite. People were like, he's too feather-fisted. Devin Alexander, I don't really remember. I covered this fight. Wasn't this the card that was supposed to have Andre Charlo? I don't remember. But that's another topic. The point I'm trying to make is, I don't remember. Was he the favorite to beat Devin Alexander? Great resume. Now, Terrence Crawford, on the other hand, 37-0 with 28 KOs. By the way, Terrence Crawford's 33 years old. Doesn't he turn 34 soon? Something like that? Kell Brook, Agligas Kavaliauskas, Amir Khan, Jose Benavidez, Jeff Horn when he lifted that title off of him, Julius Ndangu, okay, that was undisputed. You know, you got to give love right there. I was at this fight against Felix Diaz. That was a very, very significant fight when it was happening. Felix Diaz was on the roll, even though he had some controversial decisions that didn't go his way. John Molina Jr. showed up fat. What if he fights Sean Porter like he did Victor Postol? Remember that fight? By the way, that fight was a huge pay-per-view flop. Victor Postol, he fought him with a lot of respect. He stayed on the outside with Victor Postol. Remember that? He boxed, like actually boxed circles around him. To where in later fights, you would see he would stay in the pocket, try to test his chin. Even got rocked by Jose Benavidez and Kavaliauskas. Hank Lundy, very credible fight. Hank Lundy's always going to put on a good show, but nonetheless, Terrence Crawford was still the favorite. Dirijon had rocked him. This is at 140, but nonetheless, he still ended up beating the shit out of Dirijon. Tomas Delorme was laying some hands on him. And these are fights, you know, at lower division. So up until he got to 147, and I kind of predicted it, and it was pretty, you know, plain to see that PBC was going to do what they were going to do with their guys. And you can't really blame them for having their guys, their 147 pounders, fight each other before they think about fighting somebody else outside the stable. To where now a guy like Sean Porter fighting at Terrence Crawford, because frankly, if you look at it, let me put the rankings real quick. It's not like he had too much, it's not like Sean Porter had too many super big money options, especially since Errol Spence, we don't know when he's coming back. I hope he comes back, but also I want him to take as much time as he needs and not rush back with that serious, eye injury. Your Dennis, Sean Porter versus Dennis Ugas, that would be a great fight. We would accept it. But would you pay for that on pay-per-view? I don't, listen. So Sean Porter, is making more money than he likely would if he would have said, you know what, I want your Dennis Ugas again to go after that real belt, that WBA super that he has. Keith Thurman, Keith Thurman scaring me, bro, because it's like, when is he ever coming back? And can you expect for Keith Thurman to come back in his first fight back in a 2+ year layoff? Remember, his last fight was against Manny Pacquiao in July of 2019. Would he come back to fight Sean Porter? So Sean Porter's options were limited. Yeah, he could have came back, made a little bit of money like he did with Formella, and fight somebody just to get, some activity. But it wouldn't have meant nothing for his career.
How dare you?
How dare you? Shout out, Drew. He says the pay-per-view buys at $50 or $250K at $80 to break even to pay the purses. I don't think so. With a fight like this, as I said, the main promoter, the lead promoter, Bob Arum, has already said, on the record that they don't plan on making no money. So therefore, I think that it's some type of outside factors that made the pot too sweet for Sean Porter to turn down. It's hard for me to believe that Sean Porter's just going to make $4 million. But also, think about it. In this generation, in this day and age, you're getting guaranteed money.
How dare you?
Also, Teofimo against the Raiders on Monday Night Football. Also, Teofimo, thanks, Drew. He says, also Teofimo against the Raiders on Monday Night Football lets me know it will be an extreme fight because of other Latino fans. What? Extreme failure? I don't know what you mean by that, Drew, but what I was saying is this is guaranteed money. That $4 million is guaranteed money. It's okay, we're going to give you both $2 million a piece, and you got the superstars. Sell this pay-per-view. You're going to get back in money. Nah, I think Sean Porter made the right decision. And, I do understand, how the landscape is on social media. A lot of fans, are, how can I say, there's nothing wrong with having a team, right? But in boxing, I feel that is counterproductive to be like, why Sean Porter go over to ESPN? He, all that back and forth, this side of the street, and all that. I'm just glad that the fight's happening. I'm glad that the fighters are getting their money, but what we're seeing is that boxing has been on the downslide. Ratings are low, pay-per-view buys are low, engagement is low. So for these fighters, you better take that guaranteed money while it's there, or go take your chances with the pay-per-view market. So for them to get this guaranteed money and possible back-end money, I think Sean Porter made the right decision. And who was he going to fight over on PBC? My bad, that's what I put the rankings. Who was he going to fight over on PBC to get $4 million? That money ain't long in boxing no more. And, this is not just PBC. Look at the Zone. And then we already said multiple times in this video, Bob Arum saying he not paying for shit. So between Golden Boy, the Zone, Matchroom, the money ain't where it used to be no more. And me, I got to be honest, I'm kind of glad that boxing is kind of eating itself and resetting, because some of the shit that they was doing was just completely out of control. Like, for example, we're getting Joseph Parker versus Derek Chisora 2 at the end of the year. For what? Fights like this no longer move the needle. And look how many boxers have been on layoffs or ones fighting bullshit fights. And I am so glad that the WBA was forced to get their shit together, because now the way 2022 is looking, we got some beautiful fights that we can possibly get through mandates, and also the networks and broadcasters like, yo, we not like trying to hear that shit. These two need to be fighting each other. We're not going to pay, for these two, And then look at the ratings for Showtime. Anytime Charlo versus Castano did as poorly as it did, anytime Rigo versus Casemiro, and that was some bullshit, did as poorly as it did. Ratings are in the tubes. And yeah, you have these PBC on Fox fights getting a million, barely a million. But guess what? That's free TV. Don't let them pull a wool over your eyes. Like, it's free TV. More than millions should be watching. But it's not. It's the lack of quality of fights, but also it's the landscape with the DVRing and people sharing logins to the different accounts. It's kind of hard to really, really track this stuff. As fans and media, of course, they know. But anyway, let me pull up these rankings real quick on my beautiful website, FightView360.com. We're going to be back later on today with another 30-minute stream on Canelo versus Caleb Plant. And then this weekend starts my Fury versus Wilder 3 build-up with Inside Fury versus Wilder 3. It's going to be premiering at 11 p.m. Eastern on Free TV Fox. It's episode number 2, likely the one that they were supposed to release before the fight got canceled or postponed because of Tyson Fury's COVID. We got a lot to talk about that. But overall, the schedule is starting to really pick up a little bit. After all, September's been fucked. With us losing the Fulton Figueroa fight, the De La Hoya fight. Canelo is not fighting in September for what? This is the second time in 2 years. Hold on, pull these rankings. Let's go check them out on my beautiful website, FightView360.com. Also, some big news. The WBC channel has launched, the Vive Network. I have to do a video on that, and my homie Michael Montero, is fighting this weekend in a charity event. I don't think he'll get his ass knocked out. Don't do it to us, Mike. And whoever you're fighting, I got to do some research. I've been behind. Let me pull up the rankings real quick. Here we are. Let's go take a look at the 147-pound division as a whole. So, all right, listen, we don't know when Errol Spence is coming back, but I'm writing him off for a year because of the severity of the injury. So I think that there's going to be a WBC interim fight ordered and possible an IBF interim fight ordered. I'm writing Errol Spence off until at least July of 2022. So, but nonetheless, he is a champion, WBC and IBF. Yordenis Usyk, we don't know what he's doing next, but he's going to have to fight Jamal James. Or is Pacquiao? We don't know what Pacquiao's doing, but I count Pacquiao as being a retired fighter. I'm not counting Pacquiao anymore. But if Usyk versus Pacquiao 2 happens, it would be in January, somewhere around that time. That's when Manny Pacquiao can fight, but also Manny Pacquiao's trying to run for president too. So it's a very confusing situation right there. But I wouldn't be surprised if Usyk faces Jamal James next. Virgil Ortiz, he is creeping up on a mandatory. Expect for, I forgot. No, he's not going to be a mandatory anytime soon. He's pretty much the next in line for a title shot out of everybody available. I'm interested to know what's going on with the IBF. There's been some rumors that Boots Ennis is going to fight Castillo Clayton in possibly an eliminator. Mikey Garcia fighting some bullshit fight against a Sandor Martin at a catchweight of 147 pounds. Where's this Sandor Martin at? Is he ranked? I care not about that fight, not one bit. That was just officially announced today. Keith Thurman, we still don't know what he's doing. He's now approaching a 2.5-year layoff, and this is like, bro, I'm about to write him off. Danny Garcia, we don't know what he's doing. So you can expect for Keith Thurman and Danny Garcia to be in, whenever they return, some type of comeback build-up type fights. I wouldn't be surprised if we see Danny Garcia versus Jose Zito Lopez or some shit like that. Or Abel Ramos, some shit like that. And as I'm looking, 147 is pretty top heavy. So who would Sean Porter have fought? that would have really moved the needle for fans. And Sean Porter, by the way, has a really, really good reputation among the fans. Very, very good podcast. So he's, the best way I can describe him as a straight shooter. So put it this way, if he would have withdrew from the purse bid, or withdrew from the WBO rankings, he would have took a beating on social media. And his credibility, not his credibility, but his reputation would have took a beating. Because it would have been like, well, who the fuck you going to fight? You're going to just sit out then? And now it worked out for him. So Sean Porter's stock has risen, in my opinion. Rashidi Ellis, I don't know what's up with him, man. Golden Boy, they got a reputation for not treating black fighters, like really promoting them. They got to get that shit together over there. I don't know if Rashid Cruz DeZern is still with them. I don't know what's going on with that. But the Rashidi Ellis situation, Lamont Roach, it's like, yo, what are y'all doing with them? He could have fought Spence again. What up, Don? I didn't even see you there. He could have fought Spence again. But how long before he would have got Spence? Put it this way. You know what I think? I'm wondering that if Spence wouldn't have got injured, would Sean Porter have still fought Terrence Crawford? Hard to believe that he would have, right? Because he probably could have got the same money for a Spence rematch. Maybe. Honestly, I'm predicting about 200,000 pay-per-view buyers or so. It depends because Terrence Crawford has a very, very strong Omaha following. They're going to be throwing all kind of parties and barbecues, but at the same time, all the motherfuckers watching the fights together. So, I'm predicting 200. Because as I said earlier in the video, I really don't trust these pay-per-view buys that be coming out. I do trust Kevin Iole numbers, but you got to think, right? These pay-per-view numbers are fed to the media. It's like, yo, well, yeah, here, this pay-per-view did such and such. And then Copinge or somebody go write about it. It's just, right now, the way boxing is, you have to sell fights and have fights that can offset the streaming. You see what I'm saying? The illegal streaming. So you got to pay the fighters, enough to be happy to fight. The networks got to be happy to try to make some money off of it, or whatever money they can possibly make off of it. But sometimes I think they be delusional. Sometimes, they think these fights are going to be bigger than what they are. For example, I think that Fury versus Wilder 3 is not going to exceed 500,000 pay-per-view buys. It's been too long. The buzz is not there. And hello, Deontay Wilder got his ass whipped in the second fight. That right there plays a big factor in if people are going to buy the fight again, especially casuals. And to casual fans, they're not trying to hear none of that glove shit. People still talk about it. I was in Applebee's months ago after the fight, and they were talking about it on something on ESPN, and people like, man, that motherfucker got his ass whipped. Like, bro, people not so, pay-per-view is real tricky these days. And I think that fighters should do the right thing and go after the guaranteed money. Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury would be fools to have left that much money on the table. So in this landscape. And pay-per-views are just super crazy easy to stream. But, I'm just happy that Terrence Crawford is getting a good name on his record. Now, what's going to happen after this fight? Will he re-sign with Top Rank? Will he be the network, free agent? Right now, unfortunately, I still want to see the fight, but the Errol Spence would be the A-side. The Errol Spence Terrence Crawford fight, it's lost something to me. Between the accident, this eye injury, it's lost something. And then by the time we see this fight, right, Terrence Crawford's going to be 35, 36 years old. Errol Spence going to be, close to the same age as well. Like, they bullshit around with these fights too much. And it's hard for fans, especially new fans to invest in a fight where it's like, they 12, 13, like, oh yeah, I'm a boxing fan. I want to see this fight. Kids. And then by the time they fucking 16, 17, 18, they're like, yo, what the fuck? I'm not staying in the house to watch that shit. I'm going to watch that shit for free on the replays. 250,000 pay-per-view buys, we're gonna see. I expect, since we have so many high-profile boxing events coming up between Fury versus Wilder 3, remember they're going to start blitzing us with content for that. Canelo, they're going to start blitzing us with content for that. Let's see how Crawford Porter fits into that, and also UFC pay-per-views are out there as well. You know, tricky, but I'm getting up out of here. We're going to be back later on, and we're going to be talking about this more and more. You know, expect a stream from me every day, and I'm switching more towards a podcasting format. I've been experimenting around, and no more just 2-3 hour streams unless it's like a media workout or something or a press conference that's running long. You know, more streamlined content. You'll be seeing me later on today. I'm T Street Controversy with FightView360.com.